We are proud to offer deep gratitude to the tribal band of Ramaytush Ohloni's peoples and their lands that cover Northern California and stretch down the Pacific coastline. That is a land acknowledgement begun before a production at the American Conservatory Theater here in San Francisco. On another occasion, I ride with a guide at Pepperwood Preserve in Santa Rosa. Our host tells me how indigenous practices have been reintroduced to preserve and further align Pepperwood's mission, which is advancing science-based conservation of ecosystems throughout Northern California. Land acknowledgements, recognizing the historic presence of Native peoples and indigenous practices, have been seeping into my awareness. A statement here at the start of a theater production, a visit there to a nature preserve, a story on PBS about the late, great American hockey player, Henry Boucher. Well, it's Thanksgiving, and it dawns on me, the entire packaging of American Thanksgiving celebrates the coming together of indigenous peoples and European colonists around foods native to the region. The region in my memory is New England. I remember in my social studies textbooks and their depictions of the first Thanksgiving, European women in long dresses with aprons, European men in period costumes with odd-shaped guns pointing to the sky. Native peoples, generally men in traditional attire, bringing provisions to picnic tables set up in the midst of a small village. Knowing warm smiles all around as the food was placed on the tables. The moment was always depicted in color in my textbooks and as one of peaceful coexistence. And maybe for a moment it was. But I've come to learn that, like most things in life, it was a bit more complicated than that. The treatment of North American indigenous people by colonizers, taken in total, was beyond abysmal. I've come to understand that they occupied these lands for millennia, living out their lives generation after generation, the land and their practices woven into what they were and how they lived. And almost unseen but in plain sight, their presence echoes in my world. Words like Malibu, derived from the Venturino Chumash word meaning the surf sounds loudly. Seattle, named after Chief Siach of the Duwamish and Susquamish tribes. And Sonoma, from coastal Miwok language, meaning Valley of the Moon. However, the unspeakable horrors, like the state of California paying out millions of dollars in bounties for Native persons killed, those horrors were never mentioned in my social studies books. Of one thing I'm sure, as a good friend shared, the scales of justice are nailed to the floor concerning the unforgivable evil meted out against Native peoples. It's hard to know what to think, what my response should be now that my eyes have been opened to these truths. Human history is filled with sad contradictions and complexities, but maybe nature offers me a way forward, a model of unadorned existence, inviting me to simply learn and adapt. Nature is not so complicated in this way. It exists to be learned from, experienced, and woe to us if we ignore it. I tend to do that in my daily life, surrounded by climate-controlled environments, artificially maintained and delivered foods, medicines, and entertainment. But nature will not be ignored. I'm seeing signs of that everywhere, and they're not pretty. Drought, fires, floods, and storms are all telling me that nature and my place in it can't be ignored. Nature is just there, thank you very much. It doesn't need my help, maybe to protect it, to acknowledge it, and move with it rather than against it, but it doesn't need my help. I need its help. I'm feeling these next few years are going to be tough for our nation, for people like me, and for expanding awareness of and participation in conversations like this one. So many, it seems, are not willing to and indeed do not want to enter into these conversations. Of course, that's my assumption. It's been good to learn that these conversations were happening already without me, and that I could coast a little and catch up sometime later. Well, later is now. I wonder what my part in helping to heal the gaping wounds I see around me will be. How can I be in conversation with folks who seemingly believe in enforced ignorance? It's tough, but maybe nature holds some answers. And on this day, in this quiet, sacred space, I remind myself again that I am a part of nature. I have a role to play that begins with awareness, acknowledgement, and respect for the lessons of the past. All of the lessons, paired with openness and willingness to learn new ones. I am living on land unceded that has been occupied for centuries by people who lived with nature. How did they navigate their challenges? What do they know that I do not? I need to listen deeply.